Influential of these resolutions were the Fairfax resolves approved on the 18th of July, 1774, at a meeting chaired by George Washington at the county courthouse, which was then in Alexandria. The resolves asserted the colony's right to govern their internal affairs and protested taxation without consent. They also called for the colonies to unite in a Congress for the non-importation of most British goods and for a ban on the slave trade. These resolves and similar efforts resulted in the meeting of the First Continental Congress in September of 1770. Next slide, please. Next is the Craig County Poor Farm. County. After the Revolutionary War, care for people facing poverty in Virginia, these could be the responsibility of the Anglican parishes since the church was established and instead was managed by county-appointed overseers of the poor. Craig County, formed in 1851, initially assisted the poor outside of institutions, but in 1892 established a 250-acre working farm as a residence for those unable to support themselves, often because of age or disability. This property is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and included 3 cottages, superintendent's house, outbuildings, and cemeteries. The county sold this property in 1921 and opened a new poor farm north of Newcastle. The Douglas School here in Winchester, and this is really literally about 5 blocks from here. I had a chance to see it yesterday. It was Winchester's public school for Black children, and it originated circa 1878. That's the Stone Church. In the 1920s, overcrowding prompted citizens to campaign for better facilities. State funds and a bequest from John Hanley, the new Douglas School opened in 1927 to serve grades 1 through 9. The building, later enlarged, offered a full 12 grades by 1952 and became a regional high school, with students from nearby counties attending because those counties did not provide high school level education for Black students. School, church, and civic programs held at the school put Douglas at the center of Black community life. Winchester desegregated its schools in 1966, and renovations completed just a couple of years ago prepared the building for use as school district offices and as a museum.
I hate to interrupt, but we need to make a technical correction. People who are watching virtually can't see the slides. So we're going to try to fix that problem.
Okay.
The poor farm, I think we put, Dr. Luce, you remember the poor farm, we put a easement on 2 years?
I don't know. I'm aware of easement.
All right, we're good.
Name up.
All right, Jeff, thank you.
Okay, so we can move on to the next slide. Yeah, so the Carver Inn in Charlottesville. This is a Green Book property. The Carver Inn, in 1947, was among the few lodging places in Charlottesville where African Americans could stay during segregation. Featuring fine dining, a private social club, and a beauty salon, the inn was host to famous guests, including Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, and Thurgood Marshall. Gregory Swanson, the first African American to attend the University of Virginia, resided there after his successful lawsuit to gain admission to the graduate law program. The Carver Inn was listed in the Green Book, a national guide to facilities that served African American travelers. And it was demolished in the mid-1970s during a road widening project that raised several Black-owned properties. And finally, in the new marker category, we have Dr. Lily Vincennes, Burlington County. Dr. Vincennes was a pioneering leader whose work as a journalist, filmmaker, and a psychotherapist empowered the national gay civil rights movement. In 1965, she participated in the first gay rights protest at the White House. And in 1969, she co-founded the Washington Blade newspaper. Her documentaries recording significant gay rights marches brought a lot of visibility to the movement in its earliest years. Resident of Marlborough County, she hosted the Gay Women's Open House in her home in the Columbia Heights West neighborhood from 1971 to 1979. And these weekly gatherings allowed lesbians and women questioning their sexuality to meet in comfort and safety, and fostered the development of the region's openly LGBTQ plus community. Any questions on these?
I have a question. It's just on the diversification asterisk. Craig County Farm, poor farm, that's for poor people. And I'm just wondering if economic classes, does that count as diversification? I know at the university, we're looking at economic income as a diversifying strategy. But I'm not sure what that
It
means.
does in an informal sense in our work, in that we consider that to be an underrepresented group when it comes to being addressed on highway markers. Sort of in technical terms, the markers program has identified diversity as being markers about African Americans, women, and Native Americans. And so that's kind of how those have been categorized. But certainly when we see an application about people who live in the mountains or people who are lower socioeconomic status, wherever, we do take that into account as something that would diversify our program.
We are also, when we vote on the marker, should we vote separately on the Green Book marker, or that will?
No, those markers are a regular part of the program, so they follow the same procedures.
Any other discussion for Dr. Lutz? Hearing none. May I receive a motion to approve the 5 new marker text?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passed.
So next, quickly, we will move on to placement markers. Don't individual attention, but the board members have received those. And next slide, please. We can see those titles and modalities here. So we'll ask for approval of those 5 replacement marker texts.
Dr. Lukes, these were damaged, or we chose to redo these? Or?
These damaged or so deteriorated that they were legible in a very bad condition. Very old. Black Hawk was hit by a GRTC bus in Richmond. That sort of situation.
I should already know this, Dr. Lukes, but we don't ride around and inspect these on a regular basis. So
But VDOT's sign contractor is supposed to do a survey every 3 years and report on the condition.
okay.
Do we note that they're replacement on the replacement at all? Because it's kind of neat when you see the ones, that are from, say 1933 or whatever, like they're dated. Does it still note that date and then it says revised, or?
No, it just provides the date of the new approval. So these would say 2024 on them, and there's no physical indication on the sign itself that it's an updated replacement, but our online database does provide the old text.
Well, it doesn't matter. They have a numeric code at the top, which is somewhat age related, right?
Well, the codes were associated in the early days of the program with each highway in Virginia. So like Route 1, we're all assigned E codes, and Route 11, I think, was A, and so forth. And so we don't really follow, the marker program used to really follow those highways, but now they're scattered everywhere. So we assign the code based on what is the most common letter in the locality where the marker would be placed.
So the replacement marker won't necessarily carry the same code.
It will carry. It will carry.
It will.
this, so
Maybe you can
it's a way to trace it.
You may be able to.
Too. And now that I think about it, I don't think the old texts actually show up on the public viewer of our website. They are in our background database. But I don't think they're visible if you go online.
All right, any further discussion for Dr. Lukes about the replacement markers? May I have a motion to approve the replacement markers presented today? Second, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? No. So the motion carries.
Okay, next slide, please. Now we address the applications that are going to be under consideration for the September board cycle. We received 18 by the last application deadline, which is among the highest numbers that we've gotten in a quarter. And so for that reason, that's one of the reasons we're asking for board approval of the 7 highest scoring ones rather than just 5. We feel like we have the staff capacity to handle that. And Foundry is also opening up a new production line, which should be up and running by next month.
Oh.
It's going to alleviate some of the backlog that we've had. And in addition, we are really trying to accommodate localities that are trying to obtain new highway markers in preparation for the VA 250 commemoration that's coming up. And that's driving, I think, a lot of this demand. And that is an agency priority for us to try to serve people who want more related to that. So we're asking for, next slide, please, approval of the 7 highest scoring projects as determined by DHR scoring committee. And then identifying numbers 8 and 9 as the alternates, which could take the place of one of the top 7 if they have to drop out for any reason.
All right, any discussion about the first 7 markers?
Yeah, Dr. Hughes, I saw that you'd given, not prior, yeah, well, actually it says priority, topics related to the Virginia 250. That's given emphasis. Yep. And I noticed, now I lost my place, marker number 8, which is outside of the first 7. I guess it just references Washington and Rochambeau, but that's not.
Yeah, I mean, they just sort of passed through, so that wasn't
So that's not it.
hefty. We scored that one fairly high at any rate, but it's going to require some more solid documentation in order to kind of put it at top tier.
But it's not, you would not consider that a VA 250.
Not really, because it's really, they literally passed through one.
I got it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? May I have a motion to approve the first 7 applications under consideration
So moved.
and the 2 alternates? So moved, Dr. Rutherford.
Yes, ma'am.
Second. Second, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None.
Thank you. And now we can move on to our next item on the agenda, which is a Lafayette Trail marker. Next, please. As you may remember, this is this code under which the board is considering these non-DHR historical signs. And so the first approval is needed in order to place these in public right of way. Please. And the board approved the design of these back in March, so we don't have to worry about that again, but just as a reminder, here's what they look like, a very brief text. And so here's the one today. It will be placed in Goochland County, and DHR staff has verified the accuracy. So we'll ask for the board's approval for this Lafayette Trail
Any discussion about this particular Lafayette Trail marker? May I have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries.
Final item, I believe, is a very similar one with this Revolutionary America markers that's being sponsored by the DAR. This one would go in Chesterfield County. And the same section of code. Here's what these look like. Again, the design was approved back in March. And so we can move on to look at the text of this Chesterfield marker regarding the training of Virginia troops at Chesterfield Courthouse. And again, our staff has verified the accuracy of this information. So with that, I'll ask the board for approval of this Revolutionary America.
So moved. No discussion, okay.
Moving.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries.
I think that's the end of the marker agenda.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. I believe Mrs. Green is online to present the burial permit report.
Maybe we'll have to unmute her.
Yes, Joanna. Ms. Green?
Hi there. I was unmuting myself. Sorry for the delay. How are you?
Hey.
Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, I'm Joanna Wilson Green. I'm an archaeologist with a responsibility for cemetery preservation for the Commonwealth. And I am here to provide you with your quarterly update on burial permit activities. And since we're all familiar with this next slide, I'm going to skip over it. But we are bringing this information to you in recognition of the board's role in promulgating the regulations under which all permitting actions are taken. There is no decision or other action needed from you today. This is purely for your information. And between March 21st and June 14th of this year, we have issued a total of 6 burial permits on behalf of the Board of Historic Resources. 4 of them are anticipatory, meaning that no purposeful disturbance of buried human remains is proposed or anticipated. 1 was issued to the University of Richmond to accommodate treatment of ancestral remains associated with construction of a memorial space honoring the burial ground for the enslaved, and thankfully no burials were identified during at least a preliminary construction process. 1 permit was issued to the Monticello Foundation to allow temporary curation of fragmentary human remains that had been exhumed from a small family cemetery on the historic Shadwell property in the early 1990s. They are to be reinterred following community outreach and consultation. 5 permits were closed following completion of permit terms, and 1 was extended to accommodate project delays. So it's been a pretty quiet quarter. Next quarter will not be so quiet. I did want to provide you a brief update on the burial ground for the enslaved memorial under construction at the University of Richmond. This was designed by architect Bert Pinnock, who is with Baskerville. It's a Richmond firm that was founded in 1897 and has been designed at the request of and in consultation with a council of descendants. Currently under construction, it's expected to be open for visitation in 2025, and the permit will remain active until spring of 2025 to accommodate ongoing construction-related disturbance on site. So to orient those of you who are not familiar with the University of Richmond campus, the burial ground itself is visible in the photo on the left, located above the rendering of the plaza layout. And when completed, the entire site will be dedicated to memorialization and safekeeping of sacred space. So we feel honored to be a part of this process and deeply grateful that so far we have not been needed. And that is it for my quarterly update. Like I said, it's been a quiet few months. Does anyone have any questions?
So busy about next month.
Next month is going to be busier. I will definitely have a lot more to tell you then.
Keeping it a secret for now, huh?
We're trying to get through it, so I'll actually have some conclusions to present to you.
I'm especially excited about the University of Richmond Burying Ground. I don't know if you all know this. My mother is leading the effort because we have ancestors buried there.
Wow.
Oh, wow. So how strange that they're buried at a university cemetery and I'm a university professor. How about that?
Yeah, I had the privilege of sitting next to your mother during the most recent public meeting, and
So?
she told all sorts of stories about this
Yes, she
process.
did.
So it's fascinating.
Yes. All right. Any further discussion, questions from Ms. Green? Comments? Dr. Rutherford?
Good.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. For your
Thank you. I
report.
look forward to talking with you in September.
Absolutely. Well, not me, but. So, all right. So Cal Edwards should be on the line for easements. Okay, Cal, it's good to unmute your mic now.
Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kyle Edwards. I'm the easement program archaeologist with the Department of Historic Resources. Thank you to the board for being here this afternoon. Today I will be presenting 5 new easement offers, and then I'll provide a brief description of easements recorded since the last board meeting in March. If it suits the board, I will present all 5 easements and then ask the board to vote on them together. Next slide, please. The first tract we have today is the Stonewall Brigade 3 tracts located to the south of Plank Road, which is Route 3, 14 miles west of Fredericksburg in Spotsylvania County. The tract consists of a single 2-acre parcel located within the Chancellorsville battlefield, which has been given a priority 1.2 Class A rating by the Civil War Sites Advisory Commission. The applicant is the Central Virginia Battlefield Trust, which acquired the property in October 2022. They have received a Virginia Battlefield Preservation Fund grant and will apply for an American Battlefield Protection Program grant to fund the fee simple acquisition of the property. Notably, the Stonewall Brigade tract is adjacent to the Cooper tract, which is owned by the Central Virginia Battlefield Trust and already under easement with the board. It is also along a significant corridor of conserved lands that include the Chancellorsville National Battlefield Park, 3 board easements, and 2 additional properties that have been approved for board easements. All of these are under significant pressure from development, so this will be a nice slow corridor to preserve. Today, the property is in residential use with a framed dwelling and 2 concrete block outbuildings. Next slide, please. The Easement Acceptance Committee recommends acceptance of the Stonewall Brigade 3 tract easement offer subject to the following conditions. 1, subordination of the existing deed of trust and assignment of the leases to BHR to the board's historic preservation and open space easement. 2, subordination of any existing leases to the board's easement prior to recordation of the board's historic preservation and open space easement. 3, demolition of existing non-historic buildings and structures and rehabilitation of the battlefield landscape shall be completed within 3 years from the date of easement recordation. Rehabilitation or restoration of the landscape shall be conducted according to a written rehabilitation and management plan negotiated jointly by DHR and the Central Virginia Battlefield Trust. And such plan shall be incorporated into the easement either directly or by reference. And 4, final review of the title work, title commitment, survey, draft easement, and other recording and unrecorded documents affecting title to the property by the Office of the Attorney General. Per this review, council may identify additional issues that require documentation or action. Next slide, please. Next, we have the Brandy Rock Farm easement. This offer consists of a 100-acre portion of a single 539-acre parcel located in Culpeper County, Virginia, approximately 1.5 miles north of the new Culpeper Battlefield State Park. The American Battlefield Trust is working to facilitate the donation of this property by its current owners, Brandy Rock Farm, LLC. The property is entirely within the core of the Brandy Station battlefield, which has been given a priority 1.3 Class B rating by the Civil War Sites Advisory Commission, and partially within the study area of the first Rappahannock Station battlefield, which has been given a priority 2.4 Class D rating by the Civil War Sites Advisory Commission. Property has already been awarded a grant from the Virginia Land Conservation Foundation, And the American Battlefield Trust will apply for an American Battlefield Protection Program grant to fund the easement donation. Property owners also intend to seek a Virginia land preservation tax credit for the value of the easement exceeding the grant awards. Today, the Brandy Rock Farm Tract is entirely in agricultural use, with a small wooded area along its southern boundary and a tree line along a historic road trace that roughly bisects the property running east and west, with the land appearing much as it did at the time of the Civil War. Next slide, please. The Easement Acceptance Committee recommends acceptance of the Brandy Rock Farm easement offer subject to the following conditions. 1, continued negotiation of easement terms to the satisfaction of DHR. And this just means sort of our continued negotiation with the private owners of the property, since it will remain in their hands and isn't a fee simple acquisition by the trust. And 2, final review of the title work, title commitment, survey, draft easement, and other recorded and unrecorded documents affecting title to the property by the Office of the Attorney General. For this review, council may identify additional issues that require documentation or action. Next slide, please.
I have a question, actually.
Yes.
Kyle, walk me through again. This is 100 acres out of 500 something that
Yes.
Brandy Rock Farm owns?
Yes. So this is a property the American Battlefield Trust has been working with a lot lately, or trying to work with. They own a rather large portion of the property, and I believe the intent was to start with 100 acres because of the funding necessary to acquire 500 in this location. So as of yet, we don't have applications for additional portions, but I believe it's the trust's intent to work with the owners to essentially donate the balance of the property to easement as well. But this is just phase 1.
Got it. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so next we have the Whitby Tract, which consists of 4 tax parcels totaling 8.933 acres and located along Yaley Mill Road in Henrico County, Virginia. One of the parcels is improved with a 2-story frame dwelling. The majority of the property is under mature forested cover. The American Battlefield Trust has contracted to purchase the Whitby Tract and plans to close on the property by September 30th, 2024. The American Battlefield Trust was awarded a Virginia Land Conservation Foundation grant in 2023 and will apply for American Battlefield Protection Program grant to assist with the fee simple acquisition of the property. The property is historically significant because it is within 2 Civil War battlefields. The second Deep Bottom battlefield, which has been given a priority 1.3 Class B rating for the Civil War Sites Advisory Commission. And the first Deep Bottom battlefield, which is a priority 2.3 Class C rating. If you all remember, we've had quite a few come through with the Deep Bottom battlefields, and it's worth noting that these are significant for the contributions of the U.S. colored troops at these battles north of the James during the Siege of Petersburg. In addition to sort of the battlefield landscape present on the property, DHR staff had confirmed the presence of earthworks running north-south through the interior of the property. Significantly, the Whitby Tract is also in close proximity to several other Board of Historic Resources easements. This includes the Petmeyer Tract, which is just across the road, and I believe about 90 acres, the Boyer Tract, the Robertson Welch Tract, the Jackson Tract, and the Molina Tract, adding to the land already preserved at first and second Deep Bottom. Next slide, please. The Easement Acceptance Committee recommends acceptance of the Whitby Tract easement offer subject to the following conditions. 1, demolition of the existing non-historic buildings and structures and rehabilitation of the landscape shall be completed within 3 years from the date of easement recordation. Rehabilitation and restoration of the landscape shall be conducted according with a written rehabilitation plan negotiated by DHR and the American Battlefield Trust, and such plan shall be incorporated into. Hello?
We can hear you.
We're here.
Okay, Sorry, I had some background noise, so I wasn't sure if there was a delay. Rehabilitation or restoration of the landscape shall be conducted with a written rehabilitation plan negotiated by DHR and the American Battlefield Trust, and such plan shall be incorporated into the easement either directly or by reference. 2, final review of the title work, title commitment, survey, draft easement, and other recorded and unrecorded documents affecting the title to the property by the Office of the Attorney General. For this review, council may identify additional issues that require documentation or action. All right, we're almost there, only 2 more. Next with the Shockey Tract. The Shockey Tract is located just north of Winchester in Frederick County, Virginia. Property consists of 8 parcels totaling 39.275 acres. The applicant for this easement is the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation. They will apply for American Battlefield Protection Program grant to help fund this piece of the acquisition of the property. The property is currently used as pasture, but was previously subdivided for development. Due to the earlier subdivision, the Shockey Tract is encumbered by covenants and easements related to utilities for any future residences, none of which have been constructed. The Shenandoah Valley Battlefield Foundation has contracted to acquire the Shockey Tract from its current owner, Stevenson Associates LLC, in 2024. The property is historically significant because it is within 3 battlefields defined by the Civil War Sites Advisory Commission. It is entirely within the core of the 2nd Winchester battlefield, which has a priority 4.1 Class B rating. The Opequon battlefield, or 3rd Winchester, which has a priority 4.1 Class A rating, and the Rutherford's Farm battlefield, which is a priority 4.1 Class D rating. In addition to the historic battlefield resources, the Shockey Tract also contains 6 known archaeological sites, 5 related to historic quarrying activities, and a 6th that is likely a historic African-American cemetery. Next slide, please. I should also say that DHR visited the site and the potential location of the cemetery, and we're working with SVDF to sort of delineate that and make sure it's protected, well protected in the easement. The Easement Acceptance Committee recommends acceptance of the Shockey Tract easement subject to the following conditions. 1, receipt of a recorded document releasing the existing covenants benefiting parcels 44A40 and 44A31A and burdening the Shockey Tract prior to conveyance of the property from the current owner, Stevenson Associates, to the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation. And these are the easements I previously mentioned. So essentially, these tracts are encumbered with septic easements and drainage easements that were never used for the subdivision. So we are asking them to vacate these as a condition of our acceptance, just so we don't have any of these reserved rights floating out in the ether. 2, receipt of a recorded document vacating 2 50 feet and 60 feet general utility easements and 1 variable width septic easement prior to the conveyance of property from Stevenson Associates to the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation. 3, receipt of any leases in effect at the time of the easement recordation. Any such leases must be written and include language approved by DHR that subordinates the lease to the easement. And 4, final review of the title work, title commitment, survey, draft easement, and other recorded and unrecorded documents affecting the property by the Office of the Attorney General. Per this review, council may identify additional issues that require documentation or action. Next slide, please. So finally, we have the Woodworth Cottage property. Woodworth Cottage is a historic structure located in downtown Newmarket, Virginia. The property consists of a single 0.267 acre city lot containing the historic Woodworth Cottage. The structure is a contributing resource to the Newmarket Historic District, which is listed on the Virginia Landmarks Register and the National Register of Historic Places. The applicant, the Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation, acquired the property in 2022 and converted the 2nd and 3rd floor into apartments. They were awarded a VLCF grant to fund the fee simple acquisition of the property. Shenandoah Valley Battlefields Foundation plans to commission a historic structures report to provide a comprehensive history of the building and inform the future changes with the intent of rehabilitating the 1st floor for use as a visitor center and exhibition space focused on the history of African-American the African-American experience during Reconstruction. Next slide, please. The Woodworth Cottage is a 3-bay asymmetrical frame building constructed in the distinctive Carpenter Gothic style with a steeply pitched gable roof, gable crowns over all 8 front windows and the front door, and a verge board detailing along the roof line, windows, and door crowns. Beyond its physical contribution to the Newmarket Historic District, the Woodworth Cottage played an important role in the post-Civil War Shenandoah Valley. Between 1869 and 1870, the structure housed 2 schools run by Mrs. Jessie Rupert, a teacher and former principal of the Newmarket Female Seminary. An avid abolitionist prior to the Civil War, Mrs. Rupert often stirred controversy in the small town of Newmarket with her unwavering support for the Union. After the war, she obtained funding from the American Missionary Association to fund a, quote, cottage school. The Newmarket Cottage Institute, a boarding school for white children, was dedicated on December 31st, 1869. Mrs. Rupert established a second school in the building known as the Woodworth Cottage Institute, where she taught African-American children to read and write. The Woodworth Cottage Institute received support from the American Missionary Association and the United States Freedmen's Bureau, and Mrs. Rupert taught an average of 30 to 40 African-American students per month. However, according to Mrs. Rupert's notes in one Freedmen's Bureau report, local reaction to the Woodworth Cottage Institute was, quote, most bitter and had resulted in violence with men and boys throwing rocks at the building during the night. Growing hostilities, along with the establishment of a public school system throughout Virginia, contributed to the eventual closing of the Newmarket Cottage Institute and the Woodworth Cottage Institute by July 1st, 1870. Next slide, please. The Easement Acceptance Committee recommends acceptance of the Woodworth Cottage easement offer subject to the following conditions. 1, receipt of any leases in effect at the time of the easement recordation. Any such leases must be written and include the language approved by DHR that subordinates the lease to the easement. 2, receipt of the historic structures report prior to easement drafting. Extent of protections for the interior historic features will be determined by DHR staff after the historic structures report is completed. And 3, final review of the title work, title commitment, survey, draft easement, and other recorded and unrecorded documents affecting titles to the property by the Office of the Attorney General. For this review, council may identify additional issues that require documentation or action. Next slide, please. Now I can take any questions if you all have any. If not, those are all 5 of our new easements for today.
No, I don't have any questions, but just for the record, Mrs. Jessie Rupert's legacy should be articulated on a state marker.
Yeah.
She was an incredible educator and abolitionist. So I do hope in the future we can take care of that.
Right in front of the house.
Yeah, right in front of the house. Any discussions about the 5 easement offers for consideration? May I have a motion to accept accept the easement offers?
I move that we accept all 5 easement offers before us.
Second?
Second.
Ms. Towns, second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
All right, thank you. And now I just have a couple quick notes on recorded easements since we last met, so you guys can see how your work's been paying off. So next slide, please. One more. Thank you. So first we have the Robertson Welch tract, which includes 48.17 acres that lie within 4 battlefields in Henrico County. It's entirely within the first deep bottom and second deep bottom battlefield and partially within Glendale battlefield and the Fair Oaks and Darbytown Road battlefield. This acquisition was funded by the Virginia Land Preservation Foundation, Virginia Land Conservation, I said that twice. The Virginia Land Conservation Foundation, the Virginia Battlefield Preservation Fund, and the American Battlefield Protection Program. The easement was recorded on March 15th. Next slide, please. We also completed the Pilgrim's Battery tract at the Cedar Mountain Battlefield in Culpeper County. This property included 44.752 acres of agricultural land. And the donation was funded by the Virginia Land Conservation Foundation and the American Battlefield Protection Program. Notably, I think this property in the future will be may be part of the state park as it continues to grow. Next slide, please. Next, we have the Jackson Tract, which is a 2.304 acre parcel that is within 4 battlefields. The first deep bottom, the second deep bottom, Glendale and Fair Oaks and Darbytown Road, just like Robertson Welch, and it's actually just up the road from that easement. This acquisition was funded by the Virginia Battlefield Preservation Fund, the Virginia Land Conservation Foundation, the American Battlefield Protection Program. Next slide, please. The next easement that was donated was Bois d'Oreille, which is includes 1.2 acres of the Virginia Landmark Register and National Register of Historic Places listed property. This property is eligible under Criterion C and was designed in a French villa style by Thomas Waterman and William Max Hausman. Yeah, so this property was already protected by the owner with other easements, but they wanted to make sure the historic integrity of the house was maintained. So donated an additional easement over the house. And I believe they took a Virginia Preservation tax credit on that donation. Next slide, please. So we have 2 updates related to the Culpeper Battlefield State Park. First was the Golden Oaks Fleetwood Heights tract. The easement for this property was amended to include an additional 3.112 acres. I believe you guys were updated on this at our last meeting. Essentially, there was an additional portion of property that should have been incorporated in the easement, but wasn't in the original survey. So this was amending that to make sure that the full property was protected right along US 29. Next slide, please. And then the big update, thanks to Wendy and Brad and Megan and all their hard work, is the first phase of the Culpeper Battlefield State Park was completed. So DHR was able to complete assignment, amendment, consolidation, and restatement of the easements for the Culpeper Battlefield State Park. The new easement was recorded on June 6, 2024, with the board and the Department of Conservation and Recreation now co-holding one easement over the 168 acres of land, where previously the board solely held 6 separate easements on the land. And that is it for easements today.
Any discussion?
I would like to thank the staff on all the work behind the Culpeper State Park. That was
Absolutely.
quite a feat.
Quite a feat. I agree. I agree. Any other discussion? May I have a motion to adjourn our June meeting? As I take my sign with me for the.
Moved.
So move. Is there a second?
Second.
Like all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. We adjourn.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I tried.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Pat.
Could we get one last group photo for y'all?
Yes.
148. Oh my.
Wow.
That is
Good.